What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Now, today on the table in front of us, we have something really very cool. This is the Rassenti-designed CKF SNAFU 2.0, and that is a mouthful. It is the SNAFU 2.0. It is an integral. It is titanium. It is M390. This happens to be number 312. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera. Let's see if we can. I got to do something about my lighting. There we go. This landed last year, and I wanted one. They were about $600, and so I was never going to get one at that price. But recently, through a little bit of horse trading, I did end up with one, and here it is. Now, I have other CKF knives that you have not seen yet. I will do some channel updates, but stuff like the Awesome, O-S-S-U-M. I have the Decepticon 4, which is just a great stubby little knife. And speaking of great stubby little knives, this is the Peace Duke. All of these will get their own reviews. But let's stay right now with the SNAFU 2.0. This is... it's just beautiful. I mean, it is functional art. Now, the integral is done exceptionally well. There's no blade play or blade rock. The action on this thing is absurd. It is just a guillotine. It is very, very sharp. Now, this one is secondhand, so it's got some snail trails. There's a little scratch back here on the scale and a mark at the back here. And what that means to me is that I'm going to carry this. Now, often when I get a really expensive knife like this, I do carry them, but well, particularly if they're really brand new looking, I'm very careful with them. And while I will be careful with this because it is not something I can afford to replace, let's be honest, because it is a little marred already, I will just carry it and enjoy it. So what do you get for your ridiculous amount of money? And I'd like to point out that this is a factory version of a Rassenti custom, or at least mid-tech. And so it's just gorgeous. It's silly good looking. Let's do some specs just for fun. You get 1, 2, 3.5 inches of cutting surface on 4 inches of M390. The overall knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 3/4, almost 9 inches long. The grip area is really nice. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 full inches of grip area. The forward choil is big enough to get your finger into, but it is a little tight for my big hands. That's not something I expected when I looked at pictures, but that is the truth of it. But it's done just right so that the flare out on the back of this half moon leans out a little bit so that I don't feel like I'm poking myself. So you can choke up, and that's very nice. It has some really obvious jimping right here at the top of the blade. So when you are holding this without even using this forward sharpening / finger choil, you get a heck of a grip. It is very, very slicey. Nicely done behind the edge. It came with a very nice edge. I don't know who had this before me, but they took very good care of it in general. The blade is two-tone. It is satin on the flats and kind of a light, super light stonewash, or maybe bead blast is a better way to put it, on the cutting edge. And it feels like it's just a little bit hollow ground, and it is. This just landed, so I'm sharing it with you kind of the day that I got it. I will come back and do a long-term carry review. I know I say that a lot and I don't get to it, but I mean, I have a lot of knives, but this one is going to get some more attention down the road. On the secondary market, these are still selling for an absurd amount of money. So this is not a knife that I can tell you to run right out and go get. I can say that if you like to collect high-end knives and you like this, try to find one. It's worth it. It really is. Let's do some size comparisons. We're going to start with my Beg Knives Field Marshal. This is also going to get a long-term review here coming up pretty quick. Now, if we line these things up on the line, you can see that the Beg is just a little bit longer, but they have virtually identical blade capacity, blade cutting edge, I should say. This is a really good size comparison. Both of these are big knives that ride the pocket exceptionally well. Let's put it up against something a little more well-known. The full-size grip Tillion, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, which of course is Hogue's version of the full-size Ritter grip. As you can see, the SNAFU 2.0 is considerably larger than that. A little more cutting surface and a lot more handle. What else can we compare it against? Oh, my new small knife comparison is the Bug Out. This one happens to be the CF Elite model. Yeah, I mean, this is just a big knife. This is a normal size knife for most people. It is a small knife for me. And as you can see, the CKF SNAFU 2.0 is just much, much bigger. And that's okay with me. I do like my big knives. This thing is gorgeous. Now, I can tell you that because it is a integral design, there's no line down here. There's no way to get in there. There's no milling on the inside. The steel lock bar insert is on the outside, which I have noticed they tend to do with integrals. I don't know, I'm stuttering today. I imagine that's so that they can mill out this part from the exterior and apply this piece from outside. It makes perfect sense. It has what looks like a anodized titanium collar around the pivot. Now the pivot is the same color on both sides, and it is the same color as the body of the knife itself. The thumb studs look to be a really, really dark, they're almost a dark yellow ano, sort of a brownish. They're very cool. I thought they were black in the picture, but they're not. The action on this thing is silly good. The pocket clip is surprisingly nondescript. Now, what did I do with that? Oh, here it is. So, as you can see, you know, it's interesting. For a knife that was $600 plus when it was new, it is really kind of straightforward. I actually like that. I think the effort went into the action and into the design. So if you pop this thing, and it's a little stiff, you get about that much knife sticking up. Now that is, for me, it's not particularly deep carry, but it does slip in and out of the pocket very well. And when a knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches closed, having a little bit of knife here at the tip to draw it in and out of pocket makes perfect sense. You can deploy with the thumb studs really, really well. And of course, the flipper it never fails. I did notice that the detent isn't super stiff. That's okay. It could have been a little stiffer. I'd have been okay with that. But that probably would have interfered with the thumb stud deployment, which, by the way, these thumb studs are in fact stops. They do contact the frame, which is a really neat piece of engineering. When I first saw them, I thought, well, they're just going to be close. Well, you know, for example, here on the Miguron Centurion, the thumb studs, there's a cutout here, as you can see, but they're just thumb studs. They don't actually work as stops at all. On this, they do, in fact, sit in as stops, and that is really, really cool. You get the Rassenti design logo right here. It says CKF right there. And other than that, the number on the blade and the blade steel, there is no billboarding, no markings at all. This is a very clean, very tough, and very cool looking knife, which I keep touching. I love this blade shape and this design. It's really, I hate to use the word tactical, and I don't want to, but this does inspire tactical imagery in its sort of simplicity, except for this really beautiful collar right here on the pivot. That single pop of color and shine is just, it's just really cool. It's got some jimping back here for your thumb, should you decide to use your very, very expensive knife in some sort of a fight. I don't recommend it. It has a fuller that runs the length of the blade, which you can, whoops, when you're not messing up on camera, deploy the knife with. It's inevitable. Whenever I try to do something like that on camera, I screwed up the first time. Makes me laugh. So it's a knife with 3 forms of deployment, 1 beautiful integral body, running on ceramic bearings, M390 steel, usable thumb studs that are also blade stops. This is just a great knife. And it should be at $600. That's crazy. However, the joys of the secondary market and getting into knife trading is that you get to get stuff like this eventually. So do I recommend this? Well, no, not for my average viewer. But for the knife collectors out there, the people who like high-end stuff that feels, looks, and functions beautifully, this is one heck of a piece. If you get your chance to get your hands on one, I recommend it. Let's go ahead and get the blade stock out of the way and the thickness in the handle before we go. The handle, at its thickest part back here, is under 1/2 inch. So this thing is thin in the pocket. The blade stock is very nice. Back here at the thick spot, it is 4.5 millimeters. You can see that. Yep, 4.5 millimeters. So it is a nice thick chunk of M390 on a reasonably thin handle. It is just about 1 inch from the top of the handle to the place, the finger area down here at the bottom. And so it is nice and hand-filling without being bulky. It rides the pocket. I've been carrying it around since I got it. Very, very well. And again, that action, you're going to want to get your hands out of the way or you're going to lose a fingertip with this thing. That's about it. This is the CKF SNAFU 2.0. I've been a Therapeutic Edge. You've been my amazing audience. If you liked the video, please let me know by clicking the little like button down there. It does help the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. And on that note, we'll see you next time.